Should we get started? I hope nobody's hungry. Okay. So to begin, I'll begin with a famous quote from Ratan Tata. In God we trust, rest all need to bring in data. Okay, it's a famous meme. Seems everybody's so busy. It's not Ratan Tata. It's a homework. Please go and see who it is. Okay, it's Edward, a famous mathematician who actually quoted this. But this is the era that we are living in, right? The data has become a currency, and data engineers are playing a very important role in the same. So we are going to talk on, focus more on the same today. Hi, everyone. My name is Chiranjeev. I'm Senior Director with Extria, and I'm a BI Center of Excellence lead in here. I started my career with Infosys as a BI developer and also Oracle developer. And of late, in my 20 years journey, I've worked across multiple tools. And currently, I'm working on Gen AI and BI marriage, if I can do that. So yeah, it's very exciting times. Over to you, Raghav.
Okay, thank you. So my first role was, interestingly, building trading systems for a bank. So right out of college, after engineering, I started off with the bank. So, and that's been the passion all throughout. So in my current capacity, I lead data analytics for consumer banking for JP Morgan, wherein I oversee all the branch monitoring and controls functions. So it means all branches and ATMs are under my control.
If you are not withdrawing your money, you know who to reach out.
Yes. Hi, I'm Pramod Rawat, and I have 17 years experience in the field of banking and technologies. And I started my career as a coder, as an engineer, and slowly moved up to the ladder. And currently working for Wells Fargo as executive director for the analytics platform and other modernization of the platforms. So yeah, that is in brief. Thank you.
Yes, Jay.
Yeah. So myself, Jay, senior architect at Adobe. I started like Chiranjeev from Infosys as a BI guy, completely a data guy, starting with Informatica, OBI reports and all. I worked with multiple clients, Standard Chartered, Dell, or Toyota. Toyota was my biggest project in my tenure. And I was in the US for close to 7+ years. And now with Adobe, I'm working for customer, basically to strategize their products and investments, how do they map the value, right? And also I'm leading some innovations and automation tracks.
Thank you. Yes, Puneet.
All right. First of all, thank you for having me here. My name is Puneet. I'm from American Express. I manage product development for data governance, data quality, model data management. You were talking about the first project. I'm also from Infosys. My first project was a CICS screen. How many of you have worked on CICS? I see one gentleman in the end. It's much predated than a dinosaur age, but it's a 24/60 screen which you will get, and you have to be as creative as you can. There were two colors, black and green. Yeah. When I look now, Chiranjeev, I think we have come a long way. From silo data files to data warehouse to data mart, data mesh, and we can go on and on. So quite excited to be here, share my learnings, and learn from this team panel. Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you. But you raised a good point. This thing was there when the dinosaurs were there, and now we know why they are extinct. Okay. Thank you, everyone. So we'll get started with the chat. I've prepared some questions. But if you guys feel that there are better questions, feel free to ask in the end. Okay? Thank you. So one thing, I have been leading teams for last 12, 15 years, and especially when we start with the freshers, right? People with 1 to 2 years of experience. They are always inquiring about what's their roadmap when it comes to data engineers, right? There's a myth that data engineering is all about ETL. Okay, so I want to hear your point of view. Like, what is it that you want to tell all these young engineers out there? What is data engineering all about and the roadmap for it down the line?
Probably I can start off with it. So data engineering is a field that's constantly evolving compared to the time wherein we started into the world of data engineering or analytics, as they call it. 10 years back, the kind of skills you needed to become a data engineer is a lot different than the skills you need today to be a modern data engineer. So there's been a lot of evolution along the way. So my only advice to all aspiring data engineering professionals is to always keep pace with the technology. even if you ask me like 4 or 5 years back, it would have been traditional building pipelines and stuff as part of data engineering. But right now with the advent of AI, Gen AI, it's all about automation has kicked in. You have AI coming within data engineering. It's all about your roles have transitioned from a traditional data engineer. It's like you have to keep on having pace with how the technologies have been evolving.
Puneet, you want to add to it?
I mean, that's a dilemma which I face as well. What is data engineering? A lot of time it's seen as ETL, extract, transform, load. I feel that it's a piece of a puzzle, and there's a lot more to data roles in general. I can talk about 3 roles which we have in my org. So one is around data stewards. I see some of them in this room. Data steward is a critical seat, more like a pseudo business owner who understand data really, really well, better than anybody else in the company. They work with data mesh engineers to create their own ecosystem of house data, extract data, and then make it more useful. Other role I can talk about is on BI developers. Now, these are the developers who build data pipelines to make sure that data starts to tell a story which it holds. So using Power BI, Tableau, Looker of the world, we create insights, and then we make a more informed decision. A third role, which I also have linked to data, is around data quality engineers. These are the folks who build a change point detection system, anomaly detection framework. But the real idea is that they look at data in a very, very different way. So I feel there is a lot more to data engineering than just the misnomer we have that it's a ETL role. But I would love to hear from others as well.
Definitely. I'd like to double tap on Puneet's point, especially on the data governance per se, because he mentioned about the data quality, right? See, for every organization nowadays, earlier they did not consider data as an asset, but nowadays they consider completely data as an asset, the important asset, right? So I would like to talk about some analogy, like think of a Formula race car, where you have a pit stop, crew. The crew members will be helping you to fix the tires or validate the mechanics or validate all the engines and perfect, right? So similar note, I'm thinking of a business stakeholder as a driver, where the data engineering and the data governance team will be the crew members who can support the business stakeholders to achieve the destination, right? Because they are the ones who will profile the data, brings out the quality, and brings out the best out of the data to achieve the success. So I feel that data engineering and the data governance should be a combination to proceed towards the goal for every organization.
So there are a lot of roles, right? It's like Puneet said, ETL is just a misnomer. People consider it as ETL, but then there are so many opportunities, especially on the data governance side, where you have the data quality, you have the lineage, you play around with data management. So all these roles, and nobody spoke about data privacy. And good, we are not in EU, otherwise they would be asking us a lot of questions about it.
Maybe I can double down on data privacy, and I think that's an excellent topic. If you look at a broader data management, I personally feel that we don't have a lot of experts as much as our industry needs. Data privacy is one, data retention is another. How you collect the data, privacy rights, data localization, and I can go on and on. I feel that what I would request data engineers in this room to probably think much beyond than batch ETL, real-time ETL, and sort of get into some of these other arenas as well.
Okay.
I need to add one thing in data privacy, that within an organization, we need to ensure that we have a classification of the data, how to use it in the production environment. So maybe like we should classify which is confidential information, which is restricted information. Basis that bifurcation, the data moves to the production. And how to ensure that we do masking for any data which is really sensitive in terms of PII, specific to the customer information. So I think that we need to take care, definitely. So that is really important in terms of data privacy. Thank you.
Excellent. So
and probably just to add in, right, so there was a talk on data stewardship coming in. A lot of organizations, based on the maturity that they are in, they're establishing something called as the data owner community itself across the board, who take that end-to-end responsibility of guarding the data, ensuring the risks are all in place, and that's growing based on the maturity of the organization. And I see that having a positive impact, because at the end of the day, someone said, without data, there's no AI, right? So that's a key building block that everyone has been focusing on.
That's a great point you touched upon, Raghav. So I think all of us have been here since morning, and there's one common theme that has been, we all were interested and we have been hearing a lot about is Gen AI, right? So this amalgamation of data with Gen AI or ML, right? How do you see it getting, working out in future? To be honest, 5 years ago, I think Prasenjit in the morning highlighted that in 2019, he heard about it and he started looking into it and all. But some of us had not even heard about it, and that's 5 years ago. So we are talking about 5 years from now. So what is it that we see data journey being 5 years from now from your leader's perspective?
Yeah, so I can definitely highlight this piece that we started definitely with the mainframes, and then we started with the programming languages like C++, and then slowly the things started in a bigger manner where MNCs wanted to see how they can check the data globally. Now the database was maybe Oracle or SAP, the major giants who were doing stuff. But how to ensure if somebody wants to create a process, if somebody wants to create a PR or a PO, that there has to be a UI for that. So big giants like SAP and Oracle started with the applications like Oracle ERP. Similarly, so they created a UI, Oracle applications, module specific for a business problem like for the supply chain, or for maybe a finance, like how to ensure that they can do end-to-end transaction around. So it's a combination of the front end and the back end, right? And there was a major evolution in terms of these products in Oracle and SAP, where a business process are creating a PRPO and doing the payment through Oracle only. The same goes with the SAP also. Now then the things started with the unstructured data and SQL databases, structured data, then unstructured data came into place, right? And then how to handle that with the big data. And then it came up to the clouds, like the major giants started with that, Amazon started with that, and then the other giants followed that. A lot of startups doing good job in terms of creating the data part to the cloud perspective. And already this thing was already in place where VMware was doing a good job in that. But with the new stuff, a lot of new data come in, how to handle our structured data and unstructured data, those things came in. And then finally, the major thing which is there in the market is generative AI, right? So how to ensure even in generative AI, first of all, we should understand that what is the use case we are trying to solve, because it is very costly affair to use the infrastructure for a Gen AI use case, right? So I think that bifurcation needs to be required, whether that can be handled already with the existing capability in an organization. But if you really want to have a use case, then we should have a detailed analysis around, okay, what we want to achieve with that. Now in Gen AI also, I think now with the technology for developers or for engineers, it is really easy to do a coding or do a smart job, because a lot of frameworks are already in the market, and in Gen AI we have a lot of frameworks available in the market like LangChain, Haystack, right? And you need to understand, okay, if you have a Gen AI use case which will do a summarization, then maybe you can go with a LangChain as a framework, right? Because a lot of things which you want to solve from scratch will be solved with this framework. You need to integrate that, understand the business requirement, integrate for the end-to-end solution, in terms of doing a POC and moving it to the production. So I think that is really important to understand the business use case and then see what database, what framework we should use to enable a Gen AI use case in an organization. And then, yeah, a lot of databases are there in the market. There are many, but I can highlight like maybe Pinecone. These are the databases which are required in terms of leveraging with the any frameworks for the Gen AI. So I think these are the things we need to understand. Okay, what are the frameworks, tech stacks which we can enable and which we can use for our solution perspective. The end-to-end life cycle for creating a Gen AI use case will be shortened if we use these smart frameworks which are available in the market. So I think that study we need to understand, and because the main theme is how we ensure that, okay, whatever we are doing currently, we should be efficient in that, and then ensure that in future also how we will sustain ourselves in this ever-changing world of technology and new stuff coming in the market. So I think we need to ensure that we keep learning throughout. And it was also in this year in World Economic Forum, it was a question like with Gen AI, so many things has come up, how we will ensure that we sustain in this market. So the only answer which came from top leaders was we should learn what we have learned in the last 6 months. We should check and reflect back and ensure that we do our learning journey throughout. That only as a human will be able to sustain in this ever-changing environment. Thank you so much.
So that's a great point, Pramod. So what you are saying is the traditional ways of learning are not so relevant, and we need to have a different approach where it's more about integrating the frameworks that are there to use GenAI more effectively.
Right, right.
Okay, great. Yes,
I'd like
you want
to
to
add
add
on Pramod's point. I think Pramod's beautifully elaborated the journey of the life cycle of the data, right? And the GenAI, how we can utilize. I'd like to give an example, right? When I recently did that, I personally experienced that. So when I was shopping online, I usually purchase a shoe in a regular website. As soon as I've been entered into the website, they understand that I'm a customer, I'm a male, my regular shoe size is this much. This is the size. But when I was trying to purchase a shoe for my girl, it understands that, okay, this guy is a male and so-and-so age, and today he is planning to purchase for a female. So definitely it should be a gift for the loved ones, right? Within a millisecond, I'm getting a pop-up saying that, oh, you are going to gift your loved ones, so here we are gifting you 5% discount. So that's the customer experience, and it's all real-time personalization, right? So with the GenAI and AI capabilities, the algorithms clearly understand the customer expectations and how it's going to impact, right? So at the end of the day, I purchased. So that's how the customer acquisition and sales is getting converted. So with the GenAI features and AI features, I see there are a lot much of success, or maybe the customer acquisitions is going to happen, and I think we are all waiting for that.
So is it right to say one of the key aspects of GenAI is customer centricity and hyper-personalization to the audience that it is catering to?
Exactly. I think that's the biggest chunk, I would say, 60 to 70%, the GenAI capability is going to help or maybe provide a customer experience. For example, if you go to an e-commerce, right? I mean, earlier we may not know what is the description of the product. Nowadays, the GenAI is actually giving you the complete description, and it gives you the complete analysis that, okay, this particular product you purchased in so-and-so month, and now it has given you a discount, or maybe it is available in some other store with a proper, price. So that's one of the example I would add. Or similar note, which I mentioned, it is tracking. I can give you one more example. See, nowadays, right, the customers are getting frustrated with anonymous emails and calls, right? So with GenAI capability, we could easily understand that at what time the customer is available, right? At what time, probably, I will be using a mobile phone by 8 to 10 p.m., right? So which channel, is it a SMS, or it's a push notification, or an email? So which is available or active? So based on these transactions, I can generate a generative content, maybe a more personalized content, and if I send you an email, that's it. So I'll be liking that content, and I'll know immediately book a product. So this level of customer experience is possible with the AI and GenAI capabilities, and that's why I'm saying it is hugely impact with the customer experience and personalization.
Indeed, it's very exciting. Right, I remember a Maruti ad and their tagline, "Kitna deti hai?" Right? We worry about the mileage more, and I've seen people go buy a Lamborghini and ask the salesperson, what's the mileage on it? Right? So yes, we look for value, and these things are getting caught on. So that's where we see a lot of GenAI use cases in being pursued, but how many of them are actually going into production is something that we will get to hear more 1 year, 1.5 years down the line. So Puneet, you want to add?
Yeah, I think all of you did talk about like a pro GenAI. I'll probably give you a little bit contrasting view. I was in a discussion where someone talked about, there are a lot of street signs out there, and we can use GenAI to understand what these street signs are saying. And I had to tell them there's a technology called OCR, developed in 1980. It already exists, right? I think the point I'm trying to make is that we need to differentiate between what GenAI is and what it can solve for, and not really put everything and anything under that sort of a bouquet. One example which I can give you from a data standpoint is from an MDM or data management standpoint, it's a struggle to manage lineage of our data. In an organization, we keep throwing data in the warehouses, becomes a lake, becomes a mesh, and it goes on and on. Maybe that's a very good use case of a GenAI where it can read the logic in an implicit way and then throw out what it means and where the data is moving. Other point I'll make is that there's a lot of possibilities, but at the end of the day, you have a selective ROI. So you need to pick up use cases which has a scale. If it can solve or automate problem of 10 people, maybe you can hold on. But if it's like 1,000, definitely you should get into and leverage GenAI.
Exciting. So we are already talking about enterprise GenAI now. Okay, interesting.
And one thing I would like to highlight, because we are talking about GenAI, so the last thing is like how we ensure that we follow the compliance and legal perspective from any country, right? So as we know, recently few things has happened in the OpenAI space, and the results were not so great. And so now, because of that, in India, again, there is it's a mandate now. So anybody wants to launch any, kind of a GenAI model, like open source, then they need to ensure that they do follow legal, points, in terms of how to implement that and make it public. So that is really important, and that is really important for each and every country wherever people want to launch such kind of a product in the market. Thank you.
So I think one thing is that what GenAI use cases are going to be, it is very exciting. It is very different also to showcase. But at the end of the day, how are you able to use the traditional knowledge and not just everything fits in, right? In Xtria, we are using GenAI for improving the experience for our field reps, right? We've got very good feedback on it, but when we try to think about doing same for a smaller audience, right, maybe the investments are not so justified. So we have taken those calls. I'm sure all of us are looking into those aspects. Okay, great. So now that we have identified what is the future, and from one thing that I would want one of you to talk about from the future perspective is the governance of GenAI, right? Anybody wants to talk about it? EU had a regulation recently on the same, right? On how to regulate it. So responsible AI, as they call it. Any thoughts on the same? And how does it impact our data engineers? What are the things that they should take care of while developing such solutions?
See, I can add a little bit, right? I mean, see, when you mention about the governance, even in on-premise or cloud or even with the GenAI era, always the governance should be in place. That's what we always, as a data guys, we always tell to organization. So when you think of GenAI, in the recent times, we see there are a lot of LLMs. Like, if you go to Hugging Face, if you if you write any problem statement, you have like thousands of LLMs or thousands of models which has already been created. But to the developers, I would say, when we are taking up any model, right, they should be highly validated whether this particular model is right to our organization, because I understand that we are good to grasp in the open market. But when we are trying to put it in our enterprise data, we'll have to make sure we have to be cautious that whether this LLM is perfect for our organization needs, because it is going to read the enterprise data, because the model is developed by someone. But when we are getting into our organization, we need to be careful. So most of the organizations now, they are creating LLMs on their own. But there are few organizations which are accessing this open source. So that's where I would say we'll have to be very careful on choosing the right LLM, because it's a fancy word right now. Everybody wants to do that, but we'll have to be very cautious on the data set, because at the end of the day, we are exposing our data, the enterprise data, to the LLMs. So that's what I would say.
Great. So it's not only about choosing, solving your business problem, but also choosing the right aspect, right? Choosing the right LLM, choosing the right model that you want to, put it out, because it goes under your name. So very good point. So now coming back to, now that we have, identified what are the skills that are required for 2028, right? So for the audience out here, the data engineers, those who are there, right? We have identified what are the trends that are going to be there. What are the skills that the audience needs to work on as leaders within your organizations, or you see in future these skills will be the must-have essential skills without which it will be difficult survival almost for the data engineers? These are bare essentials. Yes, Naga.
Probably even before we go to the skills, right? Few of the things that's gonna, I think I would say it's already started, is you'll see something called as data engineer as a service. You already have data as a service, analytics as a service. You'll start having specialized firms wherein you can outsource your data engineering needs itself. That's already happening in pockets. That's going to end up becoming mainstream. So what that means is the data engineers within the firm will end up becoming specialists in multiple different roles that we have within the data teams. Earlier, 5-10 years back, data teams used to be in tens or hundreds. Right now, you'll have specialized folks within the teams who are more of your Dhonis and Sachin Tendulkars, if I may call it, who end up managing the solution end-to-end, right from the ingestion to the way it's visualized, analyzed, paraphrased.
The
right?
heroes.
So it's all about having that end-to-end kind of a package or a solution is what a data engineer will end up eventually looking. So he will have more collaborative efforts across the board. He won't be just sitting in a data silo working with himself. He will end up partnering with data scientists, the businesses, to see as to how best can I solve a solution itself, or how best can I solve a problem and give a comprehensive solution. And to do that, like I said, a lot of your data pipelines are more or less going to be automated. You'll not end up building your traditional data pipelines, which means you'll have MLOps come into play. I think from a Snowflake session, we had Arctic, which was showcased, which is all about LLMs within your warehouse, which means you won't end up taking the data out, which means the need for you building pipelines outside are no longer going to be relevant, which means everything is going to be in-house. You have one platform, like Snowflake or any other platform. You have ML sitting there. You have your models running. All you're doing is you're consuming. At least one aspect from a financial or a risk standpoint is it shouldn't be a black box. You should know what's happening at every stage, like how the data is getting processed. So that's where a lot of from a security and privacy aspect also comes in, wherein you need to know how every aspect of the data lineage flows through. That's why data engineers are going to play a crucial role in terms of how the evolution of how a solution is going to be packaged, sold for business to consuming.
So more all-rounders.
More all-rounders.
Right?
That's where it's going also.
More Hardik Pandyas than...
I would say more Dhonis.
More Dhonis.
More Dhonis.
I hope everybody's happy now. Okay. Yes, Puneet, you want to add to it?
So I was just hearing you on the LLM and how things are changing. You know, you were asking us about 5 years. I have to admit, I don't have a view even beyond 2 years. I'll give you a very myopic view, but I feel that the way industry is changing, and there's a famous saying is, change is the only constant, and that rate of change is constantly changing as well. I feel that with the changes in data, the way we store our data, the way we move our data, technology, products, design, we really need to spend a lot of time in understanding what's changing, how it's changing, and get into detail. There are a couple of areas which I feel passionate, and I think we should spend time. One is around cloud in general. The kind of offerings we have, they operate very, very differently than we have ever operated in on-prem. Okay. So going there, doing certification, understanding, one, the product, second, the offerings would be really helpful. Second, I would say the kind of speed in which we are getting data, you were talking about real-time movement. I think going through Apache, Flink, talking about some of the messaging sort of based processes, that makes a lot of sense from a real-time data movement. I would also talk about MLOps. I think a lot of these AI ML solutions, we eventually need to connect with them.
MLOps.
And sort of knowing how to make that connection is important. And I'll talk about my last favorite on data governance and data quality. There are a lot of ways we can go wrong, right? I mean, when trying to experiment, which is where I think keeping an view on what is permissible versus not permissible, as well as managing your data on-prem, on cloud becomes very, very important. I'm very excited on how future looks like, but this is something which I wanted to add.
There are some areas that we want to catch up and they'll grow as. How about domain, right? Domain has of late, especially from a, typically when we have seen people, ETL folks, they just want to talk about their requirements and all. But the knowledge of the domain, do you think it is going to, because we are talking about people, those who are 100% knowing everything, right? End-to-end, full stack kind of resources going forward. So domain is going to be a critical thing, especially from, banking industry or pharma, where there is a lot of regulations out there. There is a regulatory body and everybody is responsible for, the security of their own information and also the solutions that they are building. What's your take on this, especially since many of you are from the banking and such a regulated industry?
Data engineer as a standalone is not relevant already. You need to come with that business context of how is my data helping. He needs to understand what use cases am I going to solve as a data engineer. So having that domain knowledge is a necessity, a must. rather than being a choice in the current world.
So we have already reached that
Yes.
stage. Oh, I'm so far behind. I just took a late train, I believe. Okay.
I
But
think you
great point.
touched upon a very good point. At the end of the day, what really matters is, as a data engineer, how well you can understand what your stakeholder is trying to say, and how can you convert that business problem into a technical solution. So having a good hand on a domain and what we are trying to solve goes a long way. So I would say communication, critical thinking does become a very critical aspect if you want to be successful as a data engineer and then data leaders as well.
So one thing I would like to add, generally when as a coder, because when I was a junior person doing a coding, so I was given a task and I used to code that task, right? So I don't know left and right about it. I just have a specific information. I was trying to solve that specific information, right? And I didn't have clue what is the big picture for that. But slowly and gradually when I spent some time in the system, right, I tried to improve myself, right? Taking feedbacks from leaders and how to ensure that I implement that in my work, right? So what I notice is, like, if we know the requirement much better, and if we try to put a little effort and see what is the source of this requirement, right? In an organization, there could be some initiative due to which a program is there for like maybe 5 years. Under that program, we are trying to solve specific aspects. 4 or 5, maybe one aspect has come to our team. Then if we understand the the long chain, the chain which is the requirement started, if we have that clarity, then I think as an engineer, we will in a better space to solve that problem, give the right solution to that. Because if we have that clarity of the requirement, okay, why we are trying to solve for, was it any regulatory requirement which came due to which we want to solve, so those aspects I think we should try to understand and try to learn that, and that will come over a period of time only. It will not be immediate thing for people, but if we put effort slowly and gradually, we will try to understand and solve for, and I think we'll be definitely giving a better solution if we understand those requirements.
Excellent point.
I think I'll have to vouch Pramod's point, because I have experienced the same thing with multiple clients, right? I mean, they'll ask, okay, Jay, there is a requirement comes in, why can't you do it in cloud implementation? So, and why can't you do it in some big data implementation, right? But if I do the analysis, the data set would be like less than 1 million. Why do you really need a big data platform, right? So that's how the client requirements or client needs are. But as an engineer, as an architects, we'll have to make sure that we need to understand the assets model, because without understanding the assets, you cannot build the to-be. That's what I always say. So in the upskilling part, with your point, I think every day-to-day we need to upskill, but we need to understand the client first. That's the main objective, irrespective of the domain, irrespective of the technology, because technology is like, earlier on-prem, cloud, GenAI, and tomorrow humanoids are coming. I think the next meeting, I think instead of us, humanoids will be replaced. So technologies keep updating, but I would say understand the problem, the base for problem, and then you build the to-be model. That's what I would say.
Excellent. So do away with the silos, understand everything, know where you are within this and what problem you are solving is a must-have going forward, right? Another thing is, like, if I can put it very simply, knowing what are you doing, what, how, and why. I think as long as you cover that as part of your solution offering, you should be good. So domain, your hardcore technical skills, be it cloud engineering, be it Gen AI, ML ops, along with your soft skills, is going to be the key as the panel thinks here for 5 years down the line. Okay. So with that thought, right, I'll open the floor for any questions.